When the little girl with the dirty dress walked up to my counter, holding a single quarter, and asked what food she could buy, I saw myself 20 years ago when my mum and I were homeless and hungry. As a former software engineer, now working at Murphy's Burger Palace just to survive, I knew giving away free food could cost me my job. You won't believe what happened next. I never expected that helping 7-year-old Grace would lead to her father, Alan, showing up at my apartment with a job offer that would change my life forever. Sometimes when you choose kindness over self-preservation, the universe finds a way to reward your compassion in ways you never imagined possible. Hi everyone, welcome to Life's Changing Stories. Now, let's dive into today's story. The grease-stained uniform of Murphy's Burger Palace had become Mary Patterson's daily reminder of how drastically her life had changed over the past 4 months since losing her software engineering position at TechFlow Solutions, where she had spent 5 years building database management systems before being terminated for allegedly not fitting the company image, despite her exceptional technical performance and dedication to her programming responsibilities. At 29, Mary had never expected to find herself working minimum wage at a fast food restaurant while struggling to pay rent, cover her mother's mounting medical expenses, and maintain some semblance of the professional life she had worked so hard to build through years of computer science, education, and software development experience. Mary's termination from TechFlow had been particularly devastating because she had been working exclusively in the back office, writing code and managing databases with minimal client interaction, making her supervisor's complaints about her appearance and communication style seem both unfair and irrelevant to her actual job performance. The dismissal had come without warning during a routine performance review, leaving Mary with 2 weeks severance pay and the crushing realization that her technical skills meant nothing if employers could terminate her for subjective reasons that had no bearing on her ability to create efficient, reliable software solutions. The transition from a comfortable software engineering salary to the unpredictable income of fast food work had created immediate financial pressure that threatened Mary's ability to maintain her small apartment while continuing to support her mother's cancer treatment, which required expensive medications and regular medical appointments that weren't fully covered by their basic health insurance plan. Mary's landlord had already delivered an ultimatum about 2 months of overdue rent, giving her just 3 days to pay the full amount or face eviction proceedings that would leave both her and her mother homeless. Working at Murphy's Burger Palace felt like a daily betrayal of her identity and potential, serving French fries and taking orders from customers when she knew she was capable of creating sophisticated software applications that could solve complex business problems and generate significant value for employers who were willing to recognize her technical expertise. During slow periods between lunch and dinner rushes, Mary found herself staring at the register screen and contemplating the closed doors that seemed to block every path back to the career she had lost through circumstances beyond her control. The fast food environment was particularly challenging for someone with Mary's background and temperament, requiring constant interaction with customers, managers, and co-workers while maintaining a cheerful demeanor that felt increasingly difficult to sustain as her financial situation deteriorated and her hopes of returning to software development seemed to fade with each passing day of serving burgers and cleaning tables. This particular Tuesday afternoon had been especially slow, with only a handful of customers during what should have been the busy period between lunch and dinner service, leaving Mary alone with her thoughts about overdue bills, her mother's next medical appointment, and the growing certainty that she would soon be unemployed and homeless, despite her best efforts to survive through temporary work that felt completely disconnected from her skills and aspirations. Mary Patterson wiped down the counter at Murphy's Burger Palace for the third time in 20 minutes, trying to stay busy during the afternoon lull while fighting off the anxiety that came with knowing her landlord would be knocking on her door in exactly 48 hours, expecting rent money she didn't have. At 29, Mary had been working at the fast food restaurant for 4 months, since losing her software engineering job at TechFlow Solutions, where she had been terminated for supposedly not fitting the company culture, despite 5 years of excellent technical performance and 0 customer complaints about her programming work. The transition from writing complex database applications to asking, "Would you like fries with that?" represented more than just a career setback. It felt like a fundamental betrayal of her identity and the years of education and experience she had invested in becoming a skilled software developer who could solve problems and create value through technology. During quiet moments like this, when the restaurant was nearly empty and she had nothing to do except wait for the next customer, Mary found herself contemplating the series of setbacks that had led to her current situation and wondering whether she would ever find a way back to the work she loved. Mary's financial situation had become increasingly desperate over the past month, with 2 months of overdue rent creating pressure from her landlord, who had made it clear that eviction proceedings would begin if she couldn't pay the full amount within the next 3 days. She also needed to continue covering her mother's cancer medication costs and weekly medical appointments that consumed nearly every dollar she earned from her minimum wage job, leaving nothing for the kind of professional development or job search activities that might help her return to software engineering. The sound of a small hand tapping on the counter interrupted Mary's worried thoughts, and she looked down to see a little girl who couldn't have been more than 7 or 8 years old, standing on her tiptoes to reach the service window while clutching a single quarter in her small fist. The child was wearing what had once been an expensive dress, but it was now dirty and wrinkled, as if she had been wearing it for several days without access to clean clothes or proper washing facilities. Despite her appearance, the girl's face radiated innocence and hope, though Mary could also detect an underlying sadness that suggested she was dealing with circumstances that no child should have to navigate alone. "Hi there, sweetie," Mary said, kneeling down to speak with the girl at eye level while offering her first genuine smile of the day. "What can I help you with?" "What can I get with this?" the girl asked, opening her small hand to reveal the quarter that represented her entire purchasing power. Mary immediately recognized the desperate hunger in the child's eyes, remembering her own childhood experiences with homelessness and food insecurity, when she and her mother had struggled to survive on the streets before finding stable housing and the opportunity for Mary to attend school and eventually pursue her education in computer science. Looking around the restaurant to confirm that her manager was in the back office and couldn't see what was happening at the counter, Mary made a decision that she knew could cost her the job she desperately needed but couldn't bear to turn away a hungry child who reminded her so much of herself at that age. "A quarter is exactly enough for some hot and delicious chicken nuggets," Mary said with a warm smile, quickly packing a generous portion of food along with apple slices and a small container of milk that would provide proper nutrition for a growing child. The girl's eyes lit up with joy and amazement as Mary handed her the bag of food, and she immediately reached across the counter to give Mary a tight hug while calling her an angel with the kind of pure gratitude that made Mary feel like her kindness had been more valuable than any paycheck. "Thank you so much," the girl whispered, clutching the food bag like it contained treasure, while Mary felt tears forming in her eyes at the child's obvious relief and happiness. As the little girl skipped toward the exit with her food, Mary turned around to find her manager, Mr. Thompson, standing behind her with his arms crossed and an expression that made it immediately clear that he had witnessed her unauthorized act of kindness. "Did you just give away food for free?" Mr. Thompson asked sharply, his tone suggesting that he already knew the answer and was merely waiting for Mary to confirm his suspicions about her violation of company policy. Mary tried to think of an explanation that might minimize the consequences of her decision, but she couldn't bring herself to lie about helping a hungry child, even though telling the truth would likely result in immediate termination. "I can pay for it myself," Mary offered desperately, knowing that even a few dollars deducted from her paycheck would affect her ability to buy groceries or contribute toward her mother's medical expenses. "Please take it out of my next check. You've already taken an advance on your salary to cover your mother's hospital bills," Mr. Thompson reminded her coldly. "You don't have any money for me to deduct, and company policy is clear about giving away free food under any circumstances." Mary pleaded with Mr. Thompson to reconsider, explaining her urgent need to keep working and her willingness to make up for the cost of the food through extra hours or additional responsibilities, but his expression remained unmoved by her desperation. "The chicken nuggets didn't cost that much," Mary said, her voice breaking with emotion as she realized that her job security was disappearing because of her decision to help a hungry child. "It cost you your job," Mr. Thompson replied harshly. "You're fired, effective immediately. Clean out your locker and leave the premises." Mary felt like a complete failure as she removed her uniform and gathered her personal belongings, questioning whether her mother's advice about kindness being rewarded was actually true or just a comforting lie that made suffering more bearable. She had lost her second job in 4 months, and this time it was because she had chosen to help someone else rather than protecting her own interests. 2 hours later, Mary lay on her bed staring at the ceiling while contemplating her empty refrigerator, overdue bills, and the phone call from her landlord confirming that he would be arriving the next morning to begin eviction proceeding. She felt completely defeated, knowing that she was now both jobless and about to become homeless, despite her best efforts to survive through temporary work while searching for opportunities to return to her chosen career. When the doorbell rang, Mary assumed it was her landlord arriving early to deliver additional bad news about her housing situation, and she prepared herself for another devastating conversation about circumstances beyond her control. To her complete surprise, the person standing at her door was not her landlord, but a well-dressed man in his 40s, whom she recognized as a regular customer from Murphy's Burger Palace, someone who typically sat alone in the corner booth, appearing lost in thought while nursing a cup of coffee and working on a laptop computer. "Ms. Patterson," the man said politely, offering a warm smile that transformed his entire appearance from the stern, distant expression she had observed during his visits to the restaurant. "I'm Alan Blackwood. May I come in? I have something very important to discuss with you." Mary invited Alan into her modest apartment, curious about why a customer would track down her home address and visit her personally, especially since she couldn't recall ever having a significant conversation with him beyond taking his food orders. Alan took Mary's hand in both of his and spoke with a voice trembling with emotion. "Thank you so much. Because of what you did today, I have my daughter back with me." "Your daughter?" Mary asked, completely confused about the connection between Alan and her termination from Murphy's Burger Palace. "The little girl you gave free chicken nuggets to is my daughter Grace," Alan explained, watching Mary's expression shift from confusion to amazement as she processed this unexpected revelation. Mary felt like she would have been less surprised to see a spacecraft landing in her living room than to discover that the hungry child she had helped was connected to one of the restaurant's regular customers. Alan introduced himself fully as the founder and CEO of Blackwood Technologies, a successful software development company that specialized in creating custom applications for healthcare and financial services clients. He explained that he was a single father who had been struggling to balance the demands of running a growing technology business with the responsibilities of raising his 7-year-old daughter Grace since his wife's death 3 years earlier. "I failed at managing my time between work and parenting," Alan admitted, with obvious regret. "Last week, after I was particularly harsh with Grace about her behavior, she ran away with just a few dollars from her piggy bank. I've been searching for her everywhere, imagining the worst possible scenarios about what could happen to a child alone on the streets." Alan explained that if Mary hadn't given Grace the food and made her feel welcome at Murphy's Burger Palace, Grace would have continued wandering the streets, and he might never have found her before something terrible happened. "I saw Grace when she hugged you through the window," Alan continued, his voice filled with gratitude and relief. "That moment of pure joy on her face told me that someone had shown her kindness when she needed it most. It gave me the hope I had been losing and helped me understand that there are still good people in the world who care about children." Alan had learned from Mr. Thompson that Mary had been fired for helping Grace, and he felt personally responsible for the loss of her employment due to circumstances that were entirely related to his own failures as a parent and his inability to provide the emotional support his daughter needed while managing his business responsibilities. "I'm not here to do you a favor," Alan said firmly, reaching into his jacket pocket to retrieve a business card. "You gave me back my life and my world when you showed kindness to my daughter. Now I'm here to offer you the opportunity to return to the work you were meant to do." Alan handed Mary a business card for Blackwood Technologies, identifying himself as the founder and CEO of one of the region's most respected software development firms, known for creating innovative applications and providing excellent working conditions for their technical staff. Mary stared at the business card in complete shock, her mouth remaining open as she processed the possibility that her act of kindness toward a hungry child had somehow connected her to the exact type of employment opportunity she had been desperately seeking for months. "We're always looking for talented software engineers," Alan continued, "and someone who would risk their own job security to help a hungry child demonstrates exactly the kind of character and values that I want in my company." Before Mary could respond to Alan's incredible offer, the doorbell rang again, and this time Grace herself appeared at the door, accompanied by a well-dressed woman who appeared to be a nanny or family assistant. Grace ran to Mary and hugged her tightly, presenting her with a white rose and expressing her gratitude for the kindness Mary had shown when she was scared, hungry, and alone in an unfamiliar environment. "You're my angel," Grace said simply, providing Mary with the kind of pure, honest appreciation that made her realize her mother's teachings about kindness had been correct all along. As Mary held Grace and accepted the flower, she remembered her mother's words. "Do good, and good will find its way back to you, even when it takes longer than you expect and comes from directions you never anticipated." Mary had felt hopeless and defeated just hours earlier, convinced that her decision to help a hungry child had cost her the job she needed to survive, while providing no meaningful benefit to justify the sacrifice she had made. However, her life had been unexpectedly transformed by an act of kindness that had opened doors she didn't even know existed, connecting her to opportunities that perfectly matched her skills and aspirations while providing the financial security she needed to care for her mother and rebuild her professional life. 3 months later, Mary was working as a senior software developer at Blackwood Technologies, leading a team of programmers in creating innovative healthcare applications while earning a salary that allowed her to provide excellent medical care for her mother and maintain a comfortable lifestyle that reflected her true professional value and potential. Grace had become a regular visitor to Mary's new office, often stopping by after school to show Mary her homework and share stories about her day, maintaining the special bond that had begun with a quarter and a bag of chicken nuggets during one of the darkest moments in both their lives. Alan had learned to balance his business responsibilities with his role as a single father, partly by creating a more flexible work environment that accommodated employees who understood the importance of family relationships and personal well-being alongside professional achievement and technical excellence. Mary's story became a powerful reminder that sometimes being kind won't solve all your problems immediately, but every act of compassion creates possibilities for unexpected blessings that can transform your entire future when you least expect it, but most need it. The software applications Mary developed at Blackwood Technologies helped hospitals and clinics provide better patient care while streamlining their administrative processes, ensuring that her technical skills were being used to make a positive difference in people's lives while building the kind of meaningful career that had seemed impossible during her darkest hours at Murphy's Burger Palace. Grace's drawing of Mary feeding hungry children hung in Mary's office as a daily reminder that the most important work we do isn't always the work we're paid for, and that choosing compassion over self-preservation can create ripple effects of goodness that extend far beyond the original act of kindness that started the chain of positive changes. Mary had discovered that her mother's wisdom about kindness finding its way back was not just optimistic thinking, but a practical truth about how the universe rewards people who choose to help others, even when helping comes at personal cost and sacrifice that seems too great to bear at the time, but proves to be the foundation for blessings that exceed anything we could have planned or anticipated through our own efforts alone. We hope you enjoyed today's story of love, life, and betrayal. For more free stories and entertainment from our channel, please hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe with notifications.